People often believe that time erases pain. But some pain doesn't disappear. It settles quietly inside you and becomes part of who you are. To the people around me here in Malibu, I am simply Eleanor, a soft-spoken 72-year-old grandmother with blooming roses in her yard and a successful son who visits every Sunday. They wave at me, compliment my garden, and say I have such peaceful eyes. What they don't know is that peace came after a lifetime of surviving a storm. For more than 60 years, I carried a secret so heavy it bent my spine long before age ever could. A truth I protected not because it was shameful, but because it was dangerous. Dangerous to remember. Dangerous to speak aloud. Today, I'm laying it down, not for sympathy, but because some stories demand to be told, even when they hurt. I was born in 1953 in a quiet town called Ridgewood, tucked between Texas plains and dusty Oklahoma roads. It was the kind of place where everyone recognized your footsteps and gossip traveled faster than the wind. Our home stood slightly apart from town, a weathered wooden house with a wide yard, a chicken pen, and a vegetable patch my mother cared for like it was her last source of joy. My father, Harold, was known as a respectable man. He owned a small supply shop and believed discipline was love, silence was respect, and obedience was non-negotiable. When he walked through the door each evening, the house froze. Even our dog learned to disappear. He wasn't cruel every day, but when anger visited him, it stayed too long. My mother, Ruth, was his opposite. Gentle hands, tired eyes, and a voice so quiet it felt like she was always afraid of being heard. She baked cinnamon bread that filled the house with warmth, even when none of us felt it. Her eyes spoke volumes she never dared put into words. I had 2 siblings. My older brother, Thomas, carried responsibility too young. My younger sister, Lily, still carried laughter. I was the middle child, the unnoticed one. Old enough to work, too young to matter. School was my escape. Stories of distant cities, kind teachers, and imagined futures kept me breathing. But by age 10, my education ended. Girls don't need more, and my father said. My world shrank to chores, obedience, and silence. Everything changed the year I turned 11. My uncle Samuel, my father's older brother, returned from the city wearing confidence like armor. He brought gifts, laughter, and charm that disarmed everyone. To my father, he was a blessing. To my mother, a worry she never voiced. To me, he was something my child's heart didn't yet have words for, but my body understood as danger. The first gift he gave me was a pale blue ribbon. When he tied it in my hair, his fingers lingered too long. My stomach tightened, though I didn't know why. That ribbon marked the beginning of a nightmare I wouldn't fully understand until it was already too late. Rehook. But that was only the beginning, because what happened behind closed doors would shatter my childhood forever, and the betrayal wouldn't come from a stranger, it would come from my own blood. At first, nothing looked wrong from the outside. Uncle Samuel became a regular presence in our home, slipping in and out like he belonged there more than we did. He partnered with my father at the shop, and suddenly money flowed more freely. My father laughed more. The radio came back on during Sunday afternoons. To everyone else, Uncle Samuel was a blessing, but children notice things adults ignore. He always came by when my father and brother were gone. He found reasons to pull me away from the house, asking me to show him the garden, the fence, the chicken coop. He brought candy hidden in his coat pocket, whispering that it was our little secret. I didn't like secrets, but I liked not being scolded, so I obeyed. My mother noticed. I could see it in the way her eyes followed us from the kitchen window. But she never spoke. In our house, silence was survival. The day everything crossed a line was cold and grey. My mother had taken my little sister to town. I was alone, hanging clothes in the yard when I heard footsteps behind me. His voice sounded different, lower, heavier. He said I was growing up fast. That my ribbon looked pretty against my hair. What happened next is something no child should ever understand, let alone experience. I didn't have the words for it then. I only knew it hurt. I knew I was scared. I knew I wanted to disappear. When it was over, he told me if I ever spoke, my father would kill me for lying. He said no one would believe a little girl over a respected man, and he was right. It didn't happen just once. He always found a way. A forgotten tool. A business question. A fake errand. I learned how to stay quiet, how to shrink myself, how to detach from my own body. I prayed every night for it to stop, but evil doesn't get tired easily. 2 months later, my body began to change. I felt sick in the mornings. Food turned my stomach. The bleeding I had only recently learned to understand suddenly stopped. I didn't know what it meant, but my mother did. She found me one morning behind the chicken coop, shaking and vomiting. She wiped my face with her apron and looked at me the way only a mother can, seeing everything without being told. When she said the words, my knees gave out. You're with child. I broke completely. I couldn't explain. I couldn't say his name. I just cried, clinging to her like the little girl I still was. She held me tightly, but fear lived in her eyes. Your father will be home soon, she whispered. That was the moment I knew the nightmare wasn't ending. It was only changing shape. Rehook, because when my father found out what was growing inside me, he didn't see a victim. He saw a disgrace, and what he did next would haunt me for the rest of my life. My father didn't come home alone that night. I knew something was wrong the moment I heard the truck stop outside. Outside. The engine cut off, but no one moved. No footsteps. No door slam. Just silence pressing against the walls. My mother stood frozen by the stove, her hands gripping the edge like she might fall if she let go. Then the door opened. My father walked in first. Behind him came Uncle Samuel. I felt the air leave my lungs. My father didn't shout. That scared me more than anger. He sat down slowly at the table, folded his hands, and stared at the floor as if gathering strength. My mother stayed standing. She didn't look at Samuel. Not once. Tell me, my father said quietly. Is it true? I tried to speak, but my throat locked. My body remembered fear before my mind could form words. Uncle Samuel stepped forward, shaking his head like a disappointed preacher. She's confused, he said. Young girls get ideas. She's been talking to other children. Filling her head with nonsense. My father nodded. That nod broke something inside me. I forced the words out, sobbing, barely able to breathe. His lying. He hurt me. I didn't want. The slap came fast. Hard. My head snapped to the side, my ears ringing. I tasted blood. My father stood over me, his face red with rage and shame. Enough, he said. You will not speak filth in this house. My mother screamed his name, but he turned on her too. You raised her, he shouted. Look what you let happen. Uncle Samuel placed a hand on my father's shoulder, pretending to calm him. This can still be handled quietly, he said. Before people start talking. That's when I understood something terrible. They had already decided that night I wasn't a daughter. I wasn't a child. I was a problem that needed to be hidden. My father grabbed my arm and dragged me toward the back of the house. I cried, begged, promised anything. My mother followed us, crying hysterically, but she didn't stop him. Fear made her small. The cellar door creaked open, releasing the smell of damp earth and old wood. A single bulb flickered overhead. My father pushed me inside. "You will stay here until this is dealt with," he said coldly. "No one must know." The door slammed shut. The lock clicked. Darkness swallowed me. I slid down the wall, clutching my stomach, whispering apologies to a life I didn't understand. Above me, the house went quiet, as if I had never existed. Rehook, but the cellar wasn't just a hiding place. It became the place where I would make the most impossible choice of my life, one that would separate me from my family forever. Time lost its meaning in the cellar. There was no clock, no window, no way to tell if it was day or night. Only the weak bulb buzzing above me and the sound of footsteps overhead, life continuing without me. Sometimes my mother came down silently, placing a tray of food near the steps. She never met my eyes. Shame wrapped around her like a second skin. My body changed faster than my mind could accept. My stomach grew heavy. My back ached constantly. Fear lived in my bones. I was still a child myself, trapped in a body preparing to give birth to another life I never asked for. I prayed every night. Not for rescue anymore, but for survival. One night, the pain came suddenly. Sharp. Relentless. I doubled over, gripping the dirt floor as my breath broke into screams I tried to swallow. No one came. I screamed again. Louder. Still nothing. Then I heard my mother running. She burst through the cellar door, her face pale, eyes wild. "It's time," she whispered, as if saying it too loudly would bring punishment. There was no doctor. No help. Just her trembling hands and my terror. The pain tore through me like fire. I screamed until my throat burned raw. I begged God, my mother, anyone, to make it stop. Hours passed. Or minutes. I don't know. And then, crying. A sound so small, so fragile. My mother froze. I reached out blindly, shaking, desperate. She placed the baby in my arms. A tiny girl. Red-faced. Screaming at the world like she already knew it wasn't kind. I stared at her. She had my nose, my mouth, and suddenly, the weight of everything crushed me. She wasn't the crime. She wasn't the sin. She was innocent, born from violence. Yes, but innocent. My mother was crying uncontrollably. "Your father must never know," she whispered. "Samuel must never know." I clutched my daughter to my chest, heart breaking open. "Please," I begged. "Let me keep her." My mother shook her head violently. "They'll destroy you. They'll destroy her." Before the sun rose, they took her from me. I screamed. I fought. I clawed at the air until my strength gave out. My baby's cries faded up the stairs, then disappeared forever. They told the town I had been sent away. They told the church nothing. They buried the truth alive, along with me. Weeks later, my father unlocked the cellar door. He didn't apologize. He only said, "This never happened." And I nodded, because survival sometimes looks like silence. Rehook. I thought the nightmare was over. But years later, a single knock on my door would prove that the past doesn't stay buried, especially when blood remembers. Life moved forward because I had to. I married. I raised children. I became what people called a strong woman. But strength built on silence has cracks. Every birthday I didn't celebrate, every lullaby I couldn't hear, every time I saw a little girl with my eyes, it all came back. I never spoke her name. I never even knew if she had won. Years passed. Decades. My parents died without ever asking for forgiveness. Uncle Samuel disappeared from town, and no one asked why. The cellar was sealed, turned into storage, as if erasing the door could erase the truth. I told myself the past was gone. Then, one afternoon, there was a knock. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, a woman stood there, early 30s, nervous hands, eyes that felt painfully familiar. She held a folded piece of paper. "Hey you," Her voice trembled. Are you Margaret Collins? I nodded. She swallowed hard. I was adopted. I've been looking for my birth mother for 5 years. This was the only name left on a hospital record. My knees nearly gave out, the world tilted. The air felt too thin. I invited her inside without a word, my hands shaking so badly I spilled the tea. She sat across from me, studying my face like a mirror she didn't trust. Then she said it, soft, afraid. I think you're my mother. I didn't scream. I didn't cry at first. I reached out and touched her cheek. She felt real. I told her everything about the cellar. About the night she was born. About how they took her from my arms before I could memorize her face. She listened in silence, tears running freely, not once interrupting. When I finished, she stood up and hugged me, tight, fierce, unafraid. I was loved, as she whispered. Even if they tried to erase it. We cried together for what felt like hours. For lost years. For stolen choices. For pain that never should have existed, but something else happened in that moment. The shame broke. I wasn't the one who should have hidden. They were. We built a relationship slowly. Carefully. Love doesn't rush after being starved. I met my grandchildren. I learned her laugh. I learned who she became despite everything, and sometimes, late at night, I still think about the cellar. But it no longer owns me because truth, once spoken, loses its power to haunt. Final rehook, lasting impact. If you're listening to this and carrying a secret that was never yours to hold, remember this: silence protects abusers, not survivors. And it's never too late for the truth to come home.